Hey everybody, welcome back to Fantasy Theory. So we got the long-awaited season premiere of The Boys Season 4 with a 3-episode premiere that came out on today, Thursday, June 13th, and it went crazy. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that we can break down and talk about. There's certain moments that I'm not going to be talking about, but I will allude to because we can't show that here on YouTube because this is an obvious demonetization. And, do you really want to see this again if you saw it in the episode? I mean, come on. As we know, there will be 8 episodes in this season. We got the first 3 now, but then we have 5 more after this. And as we know from the most recent news, this will be the second to last season, as next season, season 5, will be the final season. There is a lot of Gen V connections, so you don't really need to watch Gen V to understand what's going on, at least not yet, but I highly recommend checking it out as it was a good show in my opinion. We covered that also. If you want to check out each episode and then look at the breakdowns of them, we covered them. But also, it just brings a lot of things like the Temp V serum, the Godolkin University with other soups, kind of bridging the gap between seasons 3 and 4, and just so much more with extra lore that I would highly recommend doing. But before we start, leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. But let me know if the first 3 episodes were great, what you would rate them. I would kind of give them like a 7 out of 10. They were rating these really high, and maybe I just had so many high expectations, but it's still a 7 out of 10 is a pretty good score. That was my initial reaction, so I figured that we just have to keep going with that. But let's jump right into the video. We're going to go not scene by scene, but kind of storyline, first 3 episodes all in this one video. It might be a little bit of a longer video, so sit back, relax. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Let's get into it. So we start with the election night with Victoria Newman and her running mate, Robert Singer. God Save Your Queen plays as we see the big party for the two, but we also see Newman in Gen V taking control of the viruses that kills Soups. So that's why I said we could watch Gen V before this, because you can have a little background on these scenes. She is greeted by an uninvited Homelander and his son Ryan, who eventually goes off with Victoria's daughter Zoe to get ice cream, leaving Homelander and Victoria to talk. Basically, Victoria is done with Homelander, but Homelander still wants more after her campaign. It's also a real bad look for her to be seen with Homelander, because the lead up to the show, like the Vought International YouTube channel and The Boys X or Twitter, were covering what was going on in between the seasons, kind of covering Homelander's trial. And if you don't remember, Homelander killed a civilian after throwing a bottle at his son Ryan, and they are using a cover-up that this civilian was a pedophile, but in terms of the case, he was just acting in self-defense. Homelander brings up an old slogan for Victoria that she almost looks like she likes it and may actually use in the future, which is a play on season 2 when Girls Get It Done, but instead it's Girls Get It Done in the White House. The boys, however, are seen at the event as well as trying to infiltrate what's going on, and we see the effects wearing on Butcher. Of course, if you don't remember, in season 3, at the end, after taking the Compound V, Butcher has only about a year to live in that moment, but I believe at this point it's about 6 months left of his life. So we'll see a theme throughout this season that his time is limited and he's trying to make right for his wrongs with the limited time that he got, specifically the promise he made with Becca, but we'll go detail later on in the breakdown. We see him throwing up, and this won't be the first instance of him getting sick now. The team at this point does not know about the condition, but will soon. I thought maybe it would come out in a bigger way, but it didn't really come out in a big way, so it's not too much to write about here. The plan was to switch out her eye solution with acid. This would ultimately be the way to stop her head popping power, because I believe she needs to see the person as she's doing it in order to pop their head. We see posters of Homelander graffitied saying "Killing America," and even one with a Hitler mustache. Next to that, we see a van that says Mr. Marathon Catering, which of course is a shout out to the comic soup Mr. Marathon, who was basically a parody of The Flash. He was ultimately replaced by A-Train in the 7. Butcher is also seen talking to, well, nobody. I personally felt that we as the audience would know it's Becca, but it is later confirmed to be Becca when we actually see her when he's going a little crazy. But this isn't the first time that he's seen dead characters. Like, I think he's seen his brother Lenny. Butcher eventually will break off from the group when he sees Ryan and Victoria's daughter Zoe, as he tries to talk to Ryan until Homelander finds them. Homelander, using his x-ray vision, spots the tumor in Butcher's head, basically letting Ryan know, and we could see that Ryan's very upset about this. He let him know that his time is limited to about 6 months. And again, no one really knows about Butcher's condition at this moment, not even the boys. Homelander takes Ryan and says he does not want to miss Smash Mouth, which is followed by the song Walking to the Sun. Kimiko and Frenchie go to Victoria's room when they are caught by her daughter Zoe. Zoe, we've seen, is the girl from the trailers where they have those weird squid tentacles coming out of her mouth, so she was shot up with Compound V as a young girl. She ends up attacking 2 CIA agents that were there to protect Frenchie and Kimiko, and then Kimiko was eventually attacked by her when she rips off her arm until Frenchie stops her. But as we know, she could regrow limbs similar to how we've seen in Deadpool, even with little baby hands and little baby arms, like, you know, when Deadpool had the little baby feet. It's kind of gross, but at the same time, it's pretty funny. Starlight tells them to jump out the window, but fails to actually catch Kimiko, but saves Frenchie. Kimiko, however, is fine because, as we know, she has the regenerative skills. Only thing is her face fell off, but, you know, we could just move past that because, again, she has the regenerative healing. But this is setting up how she is struggling with her flying powers. Also, a little side note, Kimiko, in the comics, her debut, you actually saw her rip the faces off of her enemies, so this could be a play on that, maybe? The plan falls south as Victoria finds Huey in the van with the acid. He tries to instead throw the acid onto Victoria, but we see it does nothing. Butcher comes to his aid by shooting her in the head, but it's of course not as simple as that, as she just shrugs it off. She instead proposes a truce similar to how we've seen the boys in the Seven call the truce in the comics, and we cut to them winning to the election. However, we cut to Mother's Milk and Butcher in the CIA building with Singer, the president. Basically, Singer is on the plan to stop Victoria and Soups, like making sure Soups are just entertainment and not practical. So pretty much they can't be, you know, in the military and the police force or anything like that. He just wants them to be purely entertainment. I believe he even said like being on like The Voices where they can stay on one of those game shows. We meet Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character, who he is playing the character named Monkey. Basically, to put it in nice terms, he's Butcher's sidekick. Mother's Milk meets with his ex where she says that her daughter is acting up. Homelander is going through hell during these episodes. Well, his own kind of made up hell. Starlight is now trying to go by Annie, her real name, instead of the Vought persona that they gave her. The Deep is seen on one-on-one with Haley Miller, denying the accusations that he was intimate with the octopus. But as we know later on, he's lying about that. He even brings up an ex pooping in his bed, which reflects a real-life trial, but I don't want to go into depth about it. You see what I did there. Black Noir appears in the Seven, and as we know, he's replaced by another Soup since Homelander killed him in the previous season. He killed the previous Black Noir for knowing and not telling Homelander that Soulja Boy was his father. And of course, if you watched yesterday's video where I said Black Noir may be the Homelander clone, it was debunked there. So I'm a little upset about it. But we will continue on, because I still think they may be doing that. He, of course, is still being played by Nathan Mitchell, the guy who played him before. He just can now use his voice instead of not talking. New candidates for the Seven being that the only ones left is A-Train, The Deep, Homelander, and Black Noir. The names we see on the computer going very quickly: Talon, who is active; Europo, unknown; Hyperion, active; The Standard, active; Lady Arclight, unknown; Dognot, active; Malchemical, active; Big Game, unknown; Tech Knight, active; Sister Stage, unknown; The Divine, unknown; Incidron, active; Dr. Peculiar, unknown; Shoutout, unknown. And to the next side, Stacker, active; Airbust, active; Luckless, active; Jetstreak, active; Pit Stop, unknown; Black Helmet, unknown; Holy Mary, active; Lord Horus, unknown; Wrangler, active; Pinwheel, unknown; Groundhawk, unknown; Invisilis, unknown; and Jimmy, the One, active. So those are all the people that we've seen on that are potential Seven members. But we know who they pick from that list, and they even go with like an outside hire pretty much at this point. Sister Sage is highlighted here, and she is extremely intelligent and is known to be one step ahead of you. They call her the smartest woman in the world, but she would rather be called the smartest person in the world. Her history was she was in the Teenage Kicks with A-Train, who was also in it, but A-Train says she was pretty much a loser that was banished from that group. The show highlights Firecracker differently as an outspoken supporter of Homelander, or a grifter who thinks the older ways were better. They show her on the show being watched by a staff member on Starlight's team, so we already see some cracks forming in Starlight's team. To show how everyone is a yes man, Homelander instructs the Deep to blow A-Train. Yes, you heard that right. We see both of them hesitantly agreeing, but Homelander eventually stopping that, thankfully. And we see him growing frustrated with how everyone is just a yes man to him. It also could be a play on what the Deep did to Starlight in season 1. We see on the TV show the Deep and A-Train campaigning for donations to Homelander's defense. Vought on Ice, that plays a huge spot in episode 3 that we will get to later in episode 3. We go to the Flatiron where they want Butcher out, and Huey, being as loyal as we've always seen him, wanting Butcher to stay. Butcher goes to Vought Video behind their backs, which is basically the Blockbuster, and next door is the Church of the Collective Reading Room, where Victoria, as we remember, took out the leader at one point. Polarity is seen on a cutout, which if you didn't watch Gen V, he was a superhero and the father to Andre, where the actor unexpectedly passed away a few months ago, so I don't know if they'll be continuing that storyline that much further. But it's honestly a tragedy, and my heart goes out to them. Victoria arrives, and behind her we could see posters for Soulja Boy's movies. Soulja Boy, if you don't remember, was a huge part of Season 3 and almost Homelander's father. We see The Mesmerizer and Terminal Beauty. Little over, we see the Prince movie and Big Crazy Love 2. Victoria wants the Red River files from Gen V that Huey has, and Butcher agrees for the time being to give them to her in exchange for something else. We find out after dodging calls from his dad's, Huey's father has had a stroke and goes into a coma. In a shock, we also meet Huey's mother, who's been alluded to the entire show. Fun fact, I love bringing this up, Huey's dad, who is the actor Simon Pegg, was actually who Huey was based off in the comics. We also find out that his mother works for Vought, and we see a little love triangle. Not really a love triangle, but a little bit of a love triangle between Kimiko, Frenchie, and this new guy, Colin. Frenchie, who was hooking up with Colin now with the blessing of Kimiko, has killed Colin's whole family in the past. We first see a sign of this when he flips the family portrait on his nightstand down so he can't see it anymore. Homelander, who earlier in the show found a gray hair, a gray pubic hair, and we see he's been collecting them in a jar, and it looks to be grossly for a little bit now. The show will highlight the mortality of Homelander and a big role with him moving forward, with him kind of getting old and being a human. Back to the candidates for the 7, we see Hyperion, who was the runner-up to Homelander as the sexiest soup alive, which is a play on the Real World People's Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive. We go into one of the few times we see Homelander in regular clothes. Honestly, so weird to see Homelander in regular clothes. But he's going a little bit incognito, kind of like in Captain America when he had the hat on, or kind of like when Clark Kent uses the glasses, kind of like maybe playing on like, how can nobody really notice these guys? But you know what? I could see it. He meets with Sage, who is seen reading and listening to an audiobook in the bathroom. We also find out she is from Detroit, Michigan. Mother's Milk, with the help of Frenchie and Kimiko, finds Todd, who turns out is brought in as 3 of Homelander's biggest fans to meet him. But as we will see, Homelander's instructions to A-Train, The Deep, and Black Noir is to brutally murder all 3 of them with baseball bats. And he basically calls them martyrs because of what their sacrifice will do for the greater good. The greater good being what Homelander considers the greater good. I want to note, in this, Black Noir and The Deep do it, but A-Train does not. I will say he stops one of them from leaving, but never actually swings the bat to one of them. Kind of already showing that he's turning maybe a babyface at this point. And this is where we will see the new Black Noir speak, again debunking my theory. I am so sad about this, and I don't even want to talk about this, but he just doesn't really know his role at this point and can't get over the fact that he doesn't talk. The plan is basically to start a riot outside the conference house and blame the Starlighters for these deaths. Homelander in this is found not guilty, and a riot is then started by Sister Sage, who is pretending to be a Starlighter. Ryan is still upset about Butcher, but Homelander is then trying to win him over by lying about Butcher, saying that Butcher doesn't like him. The Deep is seen with the octopus when he said he got rid of it, hiding in his closet, basically living a lie. The episode pretty much ends at a low for everyone. Huey, Frenchie, Butcher, Mother's Milk, Ryan, and even Homelander. I want to stop for a second to talk about it. Frenchie is dealing with the guilt of killing his lover's family. Homelander is facing being mortal and being human when he tries this whole episode to talk about how he is better than humans. Mother's Milk must talk about Todd's death to his daughter. Huey's dealing with his mother and his dad being in this vegetative state. And the biggest one right now, Butcher, who is running on borrowed time, trying to stop Ryan from becoming Homelander and fulfilling his promise to Becca, which was her dying wish in season 2 before she dies. So we start with episode 2. Episode 2 starts with Hypnotized by Biggie. Filming an origin movie where they train, we get a cameo as a coach from Will Ferrell, kind of like The Blind Side that they're kind of parody of. A-Train tries to explain that the coach was not a white man, but instead his black brother, but they do not really care. This new Black Noir, nor really can't understand his role, like I said, and keeps asking and asking for pointers from everybody from the 7, and is just doing way too much. Billy Butcher comes clean to the boys and tells them about his condition. In doing so, Mother Milk, supporting an Eric B. and Rakim t-shirt, tells Butcher to take a shit and leave. Ryan is then presented with his own version of the Homelander suit, and it seems like they're trying to stage like a human save for Ryan. The suit is kind of inspired like a Robin type of suit, and they also have him being called Homeboy, which is a play on his dad Homelander and his grandfather, I guess, Soldier Boy. Kamiko is seen having flashes of her past, and we see the rehearsals for what is about to go down for the attack that Ryan will save one innocent bystander, but he doesn't really want to do it, and his acting's not really that good, and he's kind of holding back and not really supporting this, so Homelander is getting more and more frustrated with this. Over to the real thing, we see the Deep stumble over saying the words fuck to see him say heck and kind of keep that PG rating that maybe they're trying to go for. And instead, Homelander steals the spotlight from Ryan until Ryan eventually uses all of his powers and skills on the stuntman by throwing him into the building, killing him, making him very, very upset. Rightfully so. We eventually see the Deep stand up to Ashley, scaring the crap out of her, and after he tried to pitch helping Ryan save somebody. And we see a few members of the boys like Mother's Milk, Frenchie, and Kamiko, and the uninvited Butcher meet at Truthcon. Truthcon, they highlight that the truth is not a conspiracy, but most people believe this to be a conspiracy anyway, so. We see things like aliens, Illuminati, baby's blood, storefront being alive, trafficking, and just all of the typical things like that. Not saying they're true and not saying they're a conspiracy, but that's what's highlighted at the show. Kamiko, seeing the kids locked in cages, is hurt by this and starts to get drunk by drinking A-Train's Speeding Bullet Ale. Firecracker's assistant is, as we've seen, all the same person, which is pretty much just Multiple Man from the X-Men. And, well, we get, the scene that I cannot show, but you know what I'm already talking about. Firecracker meets with Sage, who is a grifter, when we find out she is also a liar, and she just pretty much knows it and is just kind of taking the money of people and feeding them lies. A-Train also is highlighted as a liar who lies to his family about saving people until his brother comes along and tells the truth to his kids. Mother Milk beats on Butcher outside after antagonizing him, but doesn't go down without a fight Butcher, and eventually Mother Milk does take him down. A-Train starting to turn even more by handing evidence of the attack to Starlight and Huey, which is taken from Crime Analytics, the department that the Deep runs, that we'll learn later on in the episode. The attack being the baseball bat attack that he did not participate in but left the bodies there. We see a fight between Firecracker and her assistant versus the boys until Butcher comes, almost sacrificing himself against the naked bodies of the assistant, until the rest of the boys decide to go against their judgment and help Butcher and save him. Annie embraces her Starlight persona once again after people from her office start to convince her to do it because that's what people want to look after. Mother's Milk at the end of this denies Butcher's plead for help and does not let him back into the boys, leading Butcher to go down a different route. And we go over to episode 3. It starts with the rally showcasing the new members of the Seven. I Wanna Rock plays with Starlights protesting in the background. Monkey and Butcher devise a plan, and we see Ryan play a Mortal Kombat type game and gets a request from Butcher to play and then speak, showing how kids will sometimes accept strangers when they are not supposed to. I also want to go back for a second and talk about at that little showcase, we see again the new members of the Seven, but we also see Homelander start to really turn on Ryan and get mad at him for not smiling in front of the cameras, just showing more of the cracks that is forming between this father and son unlikely relationship, which I ultimately believe in my theory is that he's just going to eventually let Ryan go hang out with Butcher because he just thinks he's better than Ryan at this point. He just does not want to push it anymore with this kid. But back over to Ryan playing a Mortal Kombat game. The game has Lamplighter, Crimson Countless, and A-Train, as well as many other soups. But funny enough, I want to add, in real life, Homelander is in Mortal Kombat. But the unfortunate thing is he's not voiced by Anthony Starr. We see a power switch with Ashley and Sister Sage as Sister Sage takes on the CEO position, and they just use Ashley as kind of like a Mickey Mouse type of thing, kind of like a spokesman type of thing, they said. Butcher cooks up some cookies with some drugs in them for Ryan and puts them in the Bulldog cookie jar. This cookie jar we've seen before when he hides the Temp V in them from Homelander. This will ultimately fail when he goes against it and throws the cookies out, saying he put too much sugar, which is kind of a play, I guess, that maybe he did put a little too much sugar. sugar, but the sugar was drugs. Kamiko fights in a factory as Frenchie is high as a kite and meets someone from her past, but we just don't know who this is at this point. Ashley, wanting to quit, saying Disney wanted her anyway, decides to shred her resignation after seeing Homelander kill Anna. Starlight confronts Firecracker, where we find out that she took her old room. We see the woman sitting on the rocket portrait in the background, and we also find out that back when they were both kids in a pageant, we heard that Starlight ruined Sparkler. At the time, that was her name, Sparkler, not Firecracker, I guess because, Sparkler's a little bit of a play on Firecracker, with her being younger. She ruined her reputation, making her hate Starlight. We see Vought on Ice, which was teased in the first episode, making a parody of Homelander, Queen Maeve, and Jitterbean. Jitterbean being the Starbucks of the boys' universe. They recreate the nativity scene and saying they need to say Merry Christmas and not Happy Holidays. Keep Christ in Christmas, as some people would say. In the same scene, similar to the Christmas movie, most people think that, but most people also don't think that, Die Hard, we see Huey crawl through the vents like John McClane. He learns of the plans between Homelander and Victoria, and a bead of sweat drops down, landing onto Homelander's shoulder, and he could tell by the scent that it is Huey. This is similar to how in Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man 1, when his blood dropped behind Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin when he was hanging on the ceiling. Homelander gets so mad at this, he launches a full-on attack on Huey, and in the process kills the stars and the staff of Vought on Ice, which will be later blamed on an electrical fire. In a turn of events, A-Train saves Huey from the attack, as he was the one who to feed the boys the intel about the meeting. Huey gets his mom's side of the story, where she says she's had postpartum depression after having Huey and had it for a long time until she eventually left, and saying that even in some moments she tried to kill herself. Monkey and Butcher discuss how there are two options for Ryan, that Ryan will eventually kill Homelander or Ryan will eventually turn into Homelander. Eventually, Sage and the Deep will meet each other and bond over some Outback Steakhouse food, and the smartest person meets with kind of the dumbest person, and they hook up. Finally, ending out the show and the premiere, Homelander and Ryan get into this inevitable argument where Homelander says he could smell Butcher on Ryan after Ryan was trying to lie to him, saying he went to Coney Island for some hot dogs. This leads to them getting into an argument, with Homelander throwing something at the glass and Ryan running away. We will see just how crazy he will become, because it's almost like an angel and a devil on his shoulders with the cracked glass, and then like another type of spirit above him. There's three of him there. You could see him, and then to the left and to the right there's an angel and devil, and then something above him, maybe like another god at this point. But these are all his reflections. We've seen him talk to his reflection in the mirror many times. This is really when he starts to go crazy. They all decide that he must go back to where it starts, which is highlighting a red door and the lab that he was born in, and that's how the premiere will end. So, a lot that we broke down here, a lot of the story, 3-episode premiere, a lot that we talked about. Let me know what you thought of the premiere. I mean, I think, like I said, it's really setting up a lot for season 4 and even season 5. I think a lot of it's being laid, a lot of groundwork is being laid for these later episodes and the later season, the finale of the season. I honestly think, eventually, like I said before, Homelander will just turn on Ryan, tell him to get him out. Maybe Butcher has to save Ryan at some point. But I honestly believe there's a chance Butcher dies at the end of the season. And I'll go into another video about that, because I can really see that. And, the more I think about it, the more I can see it. And I don't want to see it, because Butcher's my favorite character in the show, other than, I don't want to say Homelander's my favorite character, but he plays a great role as Homelander, Anthony Starr. But that's about everything I got for the show. Let me know if there's anything I missed out on it. Let me know if you caught anything that I didn't see. Leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching today's video, and have an incredible day.